Greetings and welcome to College Planning with the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals. I'm Dr. Ketsia Sadler, founder of College Cafe, and I'm so delighted to have this episode of this webinar series for you. I'm so excited because I have three amazing guests on with us tonight. But before we get started, let's thank our partners in this college planning series. First, want to thank the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals, of course, for providing us this opportunity to share information with you, our students, families, and whoever is listening to us in the World Wide Web. Next, we have Parent Matters and Golden V, and finally, College Cafe. So thank you everyone for joining us and tuning into today's episode, which is Planning for That Key of Life. So let me start by first introducing our guests. They all share their bios with us, but I kind of like for them to talk about themselves. I'm just going to give you a snippet of their history, for lack of a better word. So we want to start first with Professor Jasmine Young, MBA. She is currently the director of the Warner Music Blavatnik Center for Music Business at Howard University. She was appointed in the spring of 2023. She was awarded a master's degree in business administration, innovation, and entrepreneurship from Felician University and a Bachelor of Arts in communication from Howard University. So I know she's very excited to be back at her alma mater working and teaching. Our next guest is Dr. Gary Hollander, who is currently teaching music in the Englewood Public School District. He's been there since 2005. He's the adjunct band director at Monroe College since 2017. Dr. Hollander received a BM in trombone, Bachelor of Music, I'm guessing, Dr. Hollander, in trombone performance from the Peabody Conservatory of the Johns Hopkins University, a MM, Master of Music from Illinois State University, and his Doctor of Musical Arts from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. He also teaches at Monroe College as well. Which I just said. So our third and final guest is Armon Sadler, who got his Bachelor of Science in Communications from Cornell University. While he's the youngest of our guests this evening, but he's done a whole lot in his few years of being out from college. So Armon, kudos to you for everything you've been doing. He is currently a multimedia journalist from Englewood, New Jersey, and he is a multimedia journalist from Englewood, New Jersey, and currently he's the hip-hop reporter at Vibe magazine, where he writes daily news articles, covers new music releases, interviews artists, celebrities, producers, athletes, etc., covers festivals and shows, and operates as one of the faces of the prestigious magazine. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your experiences with our audience. I think this topic is very exciting because we've got so many students who want to become musicians or singers or whatever, but I don't think they sometimes understand what's going on behind the scenes and where your love of music can take you. So today I really am thankful that you all are here to share on your journeys from being, whether you want to talk about your young years, whether you enjoyed music, if it's what you want to do. But I really want our audience to walk away with as much information as possible to say, wow, there's so much I can do in this in this music career industry, however you want to call it. So I want you each to start out, like I said, give us a 2-minute Cliff Notes version of your journey, starting from like going into college and how you ended up where you are now. So let's start with Professor Young.
Good afternoon and blessings. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I am Professor Young. I am the director of the Warner Music Blavatnik Center for Music Business on the amazing campus of Howard University. I got my start in the music industry actually here on Howard University's campus. I was this little Black girl from South Jamaica, Queens, and wanted to get in the music industry. But back then there weren't any role models or any, high-end mentors or mentorships for people like me. And I had to figure out my way. So I guess towards my junior and senior year, I landed a highly coveted, well, I'm realizing that it's highly coveted nowadays, but it was an internship at Def Jam Records that led to a job that led to me finding my niche, which is marketing. I was fortunate enough to work on many of the hip hop iconic albums that we didn't know were going to be iconic then. So people like Jay-Z and DMX and Foxy Brown all had amazing stories in my trajectory. Years later, I worked at the Source magazine, and then a friend of mine said, "Hey, you should be teaching." And I'm like, "Really?" The long story short is that I became a professor. I taught at Metropolitan College of New York for about a couple of years, and their graduate school media program. And then coincidentally, I was the administrative professor at Monroe College for the last decade. In 2022, a gentleman who used to be my intern called me and said that he had an amazing idea of, for a center at Howard University. Incidentally, he is the only Black head of business and legal affairs for a record label in the world. And he got a gift for us to start and grow this amazing center here on the campus of Howard University. And it's really designed to, empower, educate, excite students to become social justice warriors in the music business.
Thank you, Professor Young. Let's go to Dr. Hollander. Tell us about your journey.
Good evening, and thanks for having me. My journey was, I was primarily classically trained to be performance tracked, and went through the conservatory route and then ended up in the Midwest. And I was doing all the regional orchestras and, further pursued my DMA. And then I got my job, basically a sabbatical replacement at Illinois State University, which was where I did my master's, and it was my dream job. And after my year there, they offered me a job, and I don't know, my mentor at the time just said, you really need to go teach, not college. You need to go influence young lives. So I said, okay. And he said, go back east. So literally, that's what I did. I just sent some resumes out, and basically I sent out my resumes, and the first school to call, that's where I was going. I just didn't have a preference, and just followed a light. And so I've been in Englewood for almost 20 years now. And then and in the college, just kind of fell in my lap as well, which at Monroe, which has been, they said, you want to build a band. And so I said, that sounds fantastic. So, and then through that journey, I've been just helping my students navigate their ways and finding different careers in music. And they were able to explore that through when we were actually in virtual learning, actually. You can't do much with band over online. So we brought in people that were all venues of music in the arts coming in and talk about their careers and what they did, and expose students that you just don't have to perform, that you can be in music business, you can do music supervisor roles. So, so that's been my journey, is just, pushing forward the hands of music education amongst our young students.
Yes, I like that. And I've been part of that journey with helping chaperone those trips. That was pretty awesome. And Armon, Mr. Sadler had an opportunity to go on one of those trips with you as well. So that was amazing. So Mr. Sadler, tell us about your journey.
For sure. Good evening, all. Thank you so much for having me. 2 minutes is very difficult to sum up what has been 8 years, but really like my entire life that has kind of found its way, to where I am now. But I think if there's two things that you take away from what I'm going to talk about throughout this evening, it's hard work is absolutely necessary. It's a non-negotiable, and it's okay to pivot. I initially wanted to go into sports broadcast. I had some rejections there, and I thought about what my other passions were. And throughout my life, whether it's been being in the church choir or rapping with my cousins or watching music videos, I've always loved music. And I never pictured it as something that I could work in, but I had the tools and the abilities to turn it into something that I can make into a career. So I actually, funny enough, similar to Professor Young, I interned at the Source magazine in summer 2017. That really got the ball rolling for me. I've freelanced for years. Freelancing is where you write for publications, but you're not officially part of their staff. You do one-off articles for them. So I was able to freelance for Billboard magazine, Pitchfork, Hip Hop DX, Consequence of Sound, a lot of different places that ultimately ended me up at Vibe magazine, where I've been for almost a year and a half. But yeah, over the course of that, I've definitely had a lot of ups and downs. Working in music is very fun. It's a lot of cool opportunities, but the music industry is also very, very difficult, very political. It's got its highs and lows, but I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of great connections, and I think it's also shown the power of networking. I think there are a lot of talented people who sometimes fall by the wayside because they don't put themselves out there enough. And there are some people who get very far, even if they're not the most talented, because they're very good at networking and building connections. So I think, just through my hard work and through my desire to network and put myself out there, I've been able to get to where I'm at now. But yeah, definitely been a very involved journey, is what I say, very involved. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to kind of getting into more detail and offering any insight that I can to all of you.
Thank you so much. Before we start with the questions, Dr. Hollander, can you explain klezmer?
Yeah. So almost like a Eastern European Jewish style of music. It's old school. It's man, back in early days, back in like early Russia and all that, it's klezmer music. So
Got it. Okay, thank you. So let's start off with a first question. So if you look back on your journey so far, what do you think was the most challenging part for you? And anyone can jump in.
Yeah, I'm open to start. So similar to what I said in my intro, I was freelancing for a while, and the difficulty that comes in freelancing is you're not on a salary, you're not getting paid bi-weekly or semi-monthly. Like there's something called net 30 or net 60 within the music industry where, so let's say I put an article out this month, it's November. I might not get paid for that until January. So you've kind of got to have your finances lined up to where you can live your life comfortably, or as comfortably as possible, knowing that you're not going to get that money until later. I took a lot of odd jobs over the last few years. I was driving Uber. I was working at UPS. I was a valet at a car dealership. I was working at Huntington Learning Center as a tutor. And it got difficult at times because I knew I wanted to be doing this music thing full time, but I also had student loans to pay off and credit card debts to pay. And like, you have to take care of your life. So, the biggest thing I tell people is not to get so caught up in the glamour of the music industry, especially when you're not one of the rappers or the artists. Like when you're a journalist or whatever the role is, like you're not, wearing the chains and driving the Maseratis and on red carpets or wearing the suits. You're the person telling those people's stories, and you're honestly making significantly less money than them. So I definitely encourage everyone to, think about skills and talents that you have that you can make money off of while pursuing what you dream to do, until what you dream to do is what you can do full time. So just to summarize, I think just figuring out the financial aspect of my life while dream chasing was my biggest challenge.
Thank you.
I can jump in there. Some of the sentiments I can echo with Armon. This music industry is, has taught me that it's definitely about hard work. And, very few people have, an entire crescendo, I call it, or, you have to make sure that for me, being in this music industry for 30 years, having to remain relevant, having to constantly reinvent myself, having to continue to learn, having, to continue to make sure that you keep the relationships, right? And I always say that this music industry presents, the relationships are way more important than money. And it takes people a long time to really understand and know that, but you're only as good as your name. You're only as good as your last project. You want to be able to, oh, that's Armon. Oh, that's Professor Young, or, oh, whoever that is, because you want to make sure that you're able to utilize those relationships as leverage for, moving forward. You always want to remain, we call it like the humble brag, right? You always want to remain humble, but you also want to make sure that people understand and know your body of work. You want to make sure that people know and understand your work ethic, right? Knowing that they can depend on you, knowing that they can call you, especially if they can, give you a project and you execute it. So I've learned all of those things over the years, and those were the difficult, points of the music industry. You have to understand that there's definitely peaks and valleys, right? And so whether I work at a label, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure that your name stands alone outside of that label. So for those of you who know me, for a very long time, I was known as Jazz from Def Jam, Jazz from Def Jam, Jazz from Def Jam, right? But what happens is Def Jam is, that we all knew, has come and gone, right? So I had to make sure that I am Jazz Young, the hip hop professor that can go anywhere and that you'll be able to know my name. So whether I'm at, Def Jam Records, whether I'm at Monroe College in the Bronx, whether I'm at, Howard, right? You have to make sure that, who you are stands, independent of where you work.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. For me, some challenges with, is it depends on the phase. I was in a very performance-based career early on, and just the politics, who keeping everyone happy and making sure that they were going to call you again for jobs, and and then we used the word before, pivoting before, and I went from a performance-based just on the go. I was on the road to the point where I was always on the road, and then I became all of a sudden a teacher here, and I stayed put. And there was a transition, and it just I lost all that. It was an adjustment from performance. Then I had to do what I did naturally and teach it to students, and explaining that. So those were the challenges in terms of the career, and just the adjustment. But everything works out, and things work out for full circle, I would believe. So there's peaks and valleys, and sometimes they do connect. And I mentioned the virtual thing, because of that. If it weren't for my previous career, my virtual and my program at the high school would have fallen apart, because I was able to bring in everyone I knew from my career from performance and bring them together. I had people from Def Jam come on, actually, and managers of some of their artists. And, so it was just that was actually a full circle moment for me, and combining the two. And again, just learning to pivot and, create new opportunities for everyone. So, so as I said, not to keep rambling, but, the challenges is different for everyone. And, so what came easy to some is not easy for others. So, so I would keep it at that.
Okay, thank you. So let's talk about the students. Two of you are directly working with students. Armon, I know you have sometimes gone and talked to students. So you got a group of students in front of you who say, I want to do what you do. What are you saying to those kids? What piece of advice would you start off with, and what pitfalls would they avoid? I know that's a loaded question. So let's start the kids in front of you. What are you telling them about their academics? What in your academic journeys do you see as having helped you get to where you are? And then, we'll take it from there.
So for me, there's two different paths, right? There's academia, and then there's the music industry, right? So for me, I want to say that my professional career will meet at the intersection, right? The hip hop professor, or, this professor that teaches from the urban perspective. But students, I just encourage students to, to follow their dreams and let them know that they can do anything, that this is obtainable. That's the one great thing that I love about this program that we've designed, and I am, pushing through here at Howard University, is that you're meeting these students at their needs. So some of them come in, laser focused and knowing exactly what they want to do. Some may want to work A&R, some may want to be booking agents, some may want to be marketing executives, right? However, some just like, I'm just enthralled with the music industry. What can I do, right? And so the beauty of my job and what I pride myself on is meeting these students at their needs, helping them to uncover discover and establish a goal for themselves, right? And I always tell them, you don't have to do one thing for a million years, right? You can change, you can learn, you can grow, and you may do, 3 things, you may do 5 things, you may want to be a doctor and a lawyer. You can do all of those things, right? So empowering them and giving them courage to do so, but also helping them to find out exactly what they want to do, and then encouraging them and giving them the tools that they need. So I would tell the student, the sky's the limit. Continue to kick down doors. The sky's the limit. Continue to break down, break through these glass ceilings that still exist for people like you and me, in this music industry. So what do? We help each other. We give each other opportunity, but also helping them to understand the dynamics so that they can navigate and grow in this music industry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice would be, so kind of how I describe my job is I do fun homework for a living. I'm writing research papers on artists and on producers and on celebrities. So if you really pay attention and are doing what you need to do in the classroom, it's an easy transition. You might not like that research paper you had to write on some random Greek god, but when you get to write about Drake or Bad Bunny or Metro Boomin or whoever, you'll apply yourself more because you like their music, you like who they are, and so it's a very easy transition there. So I would say like the soft and hard skills that I developed throughout school, especially in college, have translated very easily. When I'm writing, I'm able to use a diverse vocabulary. I know how to use punctuation. Like small things like that ultimately really help the process, because it's one thing to like the music and describe it and be able to say it's fire. It's another thing to really put together something where people are reading that and they're like, you taught me a word I don't know, or wow, like the way you use syntax was incredible, like stuff like that. So definitely applying those soft and hard skills, but most importantly, like just at the ground level with journalism, most people don't land bylines at Vibe magazine or Billboard magazine or Pitchfork early on. So you kind of have to be okay taking it step by step. Start your own blog. I tell a lot of people to do that. A lot of people have successfully done that and have been able to apply the things that they've learned in school to, running their own blog, or even taking like lower level mid-tier type of bylines at different publications and blogs before you get those bigger ones. So yeah, I would say like specifically with my career, the knowledge I gained through just writing papers, especially as a communication major. I wrote a lot of papers in college. And then also, unfortunately, or if you're okay with it, being a little patient too.
Yeah, I tell my students, I get to see them go off to college, and I always tell them, if they're going to go into music, be open mind, because you might get, caught into another channel of music, and that's okay. You might think because band was fun in high school, and then all of a sudden you go to college and you focus in and you realize you may not, that may not be the case. But there are other avenues of music they can go down. And so I always tell them, keep your eyes open and, be aware of other avenues that you can explore. So, and it's okay. You're not a failure. So I do tell them that, and a lot of times that it does happen that way. So, and I stay in contact with them, and as a teacher should, and make sure that they are, they're getting proper guidance and from someone who knows them, for more than just their college years. So, but that's usually my advice to them is, keep an open door to things.
Okay, thank you. So for each of you in the current career that you are now, how did you know that this was the place for you? Are you looking to go further or just kind of stay? Where do you see yourself 5, 10 years from now?
I'll go first, if you don't mind. I know it because I love it. It's every day. I don't call out sick. I mean, I go in every day, and it's how far can I go? And in terms of how far can I push the students, and what experience can I offer to students this year, that they haven't gotten before and they may never get. So, and that becomes a game to me. What can I do to offer our students that no other school is offering our students? And, so from that aspect, that's what I love. It's fun. I have a good rapport with the students, which makes it more enjoyable. And just it's kind of like they always say, being a teacher is like you're stuck in you're frozen in time. So you're always dealing with 14 to 18-year-olds, and I'm getting older, but they're not. So, so that's my favorite part of that, is how far, I can push them and what can we experience together. 5 to 10 years from now, I don't know. We're doing things that I thought we'd never do. So, I have a little checklist of things I like to do, but, I don't know, 10 years? I don't know, retired. No. So anyway, so that's that. So I thought I'd just go first on that one because it is exciting to be, it's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I see you enjoying the kids, taking them to play at different games, the opening for baseball and different NBA and things like that. So definitely opportunities they probably would not have had. When I talk about our high school and district, I always say, look, our band director takes the kids on college tours. How many band directors in high school do that? I don't know, maybe others do, but I know Englewood, Dwight Morrow High School, their band director does that. So kudos to you.
5 to 10 years. It's funny too. I was asked this question the other day, and I sat and realized that I haven't necessarily plotted out what my next 5 to 10 years are, because where I'm at now, I was chasing it for so long that the last year I've really spent enjoying it. Like it's truly a privilege what I get to do. I've had jobs where I wake up, I look at my phone, and I'm like, I have to go into this thing. But every Tuesday through Thursday, because I have a hybrid schedule, so I work from home Mondays, Fridays. Every Tuesday through Thursday, I wake up excited to go into my job and write my daily news articles and figure out different events that I can go to. So I've really spent the last year just kind of soaking in all of the hard work that I put in and working hard where I'm at too. I can get into everything I've done, over the last year eventually, but I do know a couple of specific things that I would like to accomplish. I want to do more on-camera stuff. I've primarily just been writing, which you can see on the Vibe website. Search my name, Armon Sadler. You can see all the writing I've done. But just being in this digital age, a lot of publications have to pivot to more video content. So I do want to do that. I've had the opportunity to do some, but I want to do more. Another kind of benchmark I want to reach is having my own cover story, which is essentially if we were to put out a print magazine with an artist on the front, I'm the one who's interviewing them. I've done them before, but at smaller places. So I think just being able to say that I have a cover story or multiple cover stories at Vibe magazine kind of puts me in a different, place in terms of all the writers who have written before. But and I think the biggest thing for me is also just kind of maintaining my ability to stay down to earth and maintaining my mental health, which I'm a big proponent of. The music industry is very fun. It can be very consuming. I find myself in New York City on days where I'm working from home and not planning to go in at all because there are fun events to go to, and trying to really get better at saying no and taking time for myself. So I think that's really just the biggest thing, is maintaining the balance that I've kind of strived to have within life, because it's very tough. Like I said, it's a privilege. There's so many fun things that you can do, things that you might not have ever imagined that you would be invited to, you get to do. And so that's been the last year for me. And I'm just looking to continue that, but also make sure that I prioritize Armon over, putting Armon out there and putting Vibe out there.
I love the self-care. I love that. And especially since you are super young and you have so much living to do, right? I love that. And that's a part of my 5 years as well. Just, I keep saying, sending myself these little notes. It's okay, Jazz, to relax. It's okay to take a day off. But, I'm always focused on the win, right? And sometimes people will say that's to my detriment, or, that's to my, positive. But either way, the goal is always going to be success, right? So for me, I guess the next 5 years and making sure, yes, self-care, right? I have this bucket list. And, I'm saying from this little Black girl from South Jamaica, Queens, hip hop has taken me all around the world. And I'm so grateful for it, right? But I feel like there's so many other places and spaces that I need to be in. So a part of that is self-care. A part of that is checking off the things of, from my bucket list. A part of that, or a big portion of that, obviously, is to, focus on my personal children. I have 2 young boys. One is in college. One is in the 7th grade that I homeschool. So my life is always, impacted by them positively, right? Revolves around them. But professionally, for me, just continuing to spread this message, both here at Howard, both globally and nationally, right? We want to make sure that we are continue to provide students with the in this, okay, going back, and I'll be really briefly, the music industry is, definitely underrepresented, right? So one of the missions of our center is that the music industry has failed Black and brown students, right? Period, right? We've failed, the Black and brown performer. How do we work as a collective to make sure we change those things? So those are one of the pillars that my center is built on. And I just want to continue to be able to share that message so that, the world continues to provide, right? So give back to our students and make sure that they have the correct platforms that they need in order to grow. So I want to continue to share this message nationally and then globally so that we can continue to help students and really create and grow change makers, really create and grow social justice warriors in real time, and making sure that they understand that they have to come back, right? And give back to the next generation. So my next 5 years will, encompass all of those bits and pieces. Unless I hit the lottery, I keep on, joking to the children that, oh, let me hit the lottery, I'm going to get low. And they laugh, right? But at the end of the day, it's just all about continuing to serve and continuing to, share this message.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to specifically, Dr. Hollander, we mentioned before about you working with the high school students, the college tours that you do with them. So when the kids come to you and say, oh, I want to be in the band and when I go to college, or I think I want to be a musician or something, what are some of the conversations you're having with them besides what we've said before?
You better put in the work. So, it's not given. And, what are you expecting out of it? And so those are the very preliminary conversations, and then what happens if you don't get in? So, but, a lot of them, and we talk about affording school and, some easy, not easy, but some ways is, going to the HBCUs, you get band scholarships, that helps, reduce the cost of tuition for students. And sometimes the bell doesn't click until they start going through the financial aid process and then realizing I got to pay how much? And then they come back to me and be like, so what do I need to do to work on an audition? So, that's when sometimes some students, that's what it takes. They just need to see that bill sit in front of them and say, oh, okay. So, yeah, but that's some of the conversations we have, music students, they put in a lot of work, it's, because not only you have your homework for your other classes, but then you're practicing on your primary instrument too. So that's, because that's homework, even though you love it, it still time. So, but those are the primary, Kickstarter conversations we have. And then we go from there.
Okay, got it. Anyone else want to jump in on that topic and share? Professor Young, what do you say to your incoming freshmen, or when kids come and do the tours on campus and say, oh, I think I want to come to the Blavatt. I keep pronouncing that incorrect.
Warner Music Blavatnik. It's definitely a mouthful. And so we are a new center, and I'm just so excited that a lot of students are hearing about the center and saying that they came to Howard just for the center. And I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful, but then it's still, the start of the work. And I just share the same thing. I just say it's time to work, right? And then Howard University is one of those universities that's, that all of the major corporations come to because they know that they can source amazing talent here, right? It starts here. And that kind of creates a little bit of a, not necessarily a sheltered or privileged lifestyle, but the music industry is very different from other corporations. So my goal is to just share with them, the expectations, like Armon was saying before about the hustle of the music industry. It's very different than corporate America, very different. And the goal is you have to have a certain mindset. You have to know, like the doctor was saying about pivoting, right? You have to make sure that you stay on your P's and Q's and be prepared, right? So I always say, are you laser focused, right? You don't necessarily have to know what you want to do. You just have to be able to understand that I can support you in the how, right? And you have to have a certain mindset. You have to have a certain work ethic. You have to have a certain, not necessarily a level of professionalism, right? But I teach it to you, but you have to make sure that you could just go. And that's what I, try to strive and teach the students. If you're ready to go, then I got you.
Mr. Sadler, you want to jump in on that or no?
Yeah, I think my situation is a bit unique because I didn't know that I wanted to be a music journalist until my junior year of college. So, and I wasn't a music minor. I didn't take any music classes in college. Everything that I was doing music related outside of my one semester running a radio show, it was outside of Cornell. And so that came with time management. It came with going to class, doing my homework, doing the millions of things I was involved in on campus, and then having time to write as well. So that's something I stress is time management. But when it's something that you want, you put the time in. I don't think any of the roles that we have are things that you can passively do. If this is something you really want, then you have to put that time and that effort in, and be okay sacrificing. Be okay missing out on things sometimes. You miss out on things now so you can enjoy life a lot later. So yeah, I think that's really all that I would say there. Yeah.
Okay. So you said that you were not a music major or anything in college. So is there anything you go back in your academic to change?
I'm really happy with my journey. I mean, I think if anything, I would have loved to maybe have started a music magazine in college just so it was a bit more directly on campus. I was working with a startup blog with one of my Cornell classmates, but it was primarily housed in Atlanta. So I didn't have any direct contact with any of them outside of the one peer I had at Cornell. But looking back, it would have been cool to have a journalism club and we all can meet and we can, put out a magazine and host events, things of that nature. Because that's kind of what I'm doing now. And that's probably the best part about being at Vibe is my team is all Black or people of color, and I get to see them every day. For the years leading up to now, I was working remote. So I was working from home, talking to people through Slack or email or text, but there's nothing like being in person with people and connecting with people over music. It's a language that we all talk. So I think that's probably the only thing. But otherwise, I don't have any regrets about, how my journey went. I think I ended up doing pretty well for myself. So.
Professor Young, Dr. Hollander, anything in your academic journey that you might change looking back, or anything you would have done in addition to what you're doing now, or in addition to what you did?
You can go, Dr. Hollander, then I'll follow up.
I don't know if I would have done anything different, or else I would have been. I would not be where I am today. Mm-hmm. So, I have quite the past, so, and I don't regret any of it. I don't know. Yeah, not to be boring about it, but there's nothing I probably would have changed. There is if anything, if I had to pick one, and you're saying, Dr. Sadler, you said, no, you must pick one thing. I would have gone back. I would have added a double major to my undergrad. Being being a performance major is risky, because there's no guarantees in just performance. And so I probably would have added either, they offered either music recording / technology or an education degree. I probably would have double majored if I had to pick something, but that'd be the only thing I'd probably change.
So for me, I think that more of a plan. We talked about that earlier in this conversation. I'm grateful for my, experience. I'm grateful for my unique journey. And, very few people can say that they've had the journey and have worked with, all the amazing people, both on the music industry side and the academic side as well. But I think that, and I shared this, right, in a lot of my talks, that, many of the opportunities that have come to me have, been, known because of my work ethic, right, and have been offered. But I think that, had I had a more accurate life plan, I think that, my life would have been a little bit different, right? No one can say that they are, all the amazing things, right? But, pursuing is very different than, just saying the yes to things. And that's, something that I teach into the students now. You have to have a laser focused plan that's going to match your laser focus, goals. And how do you match them? How do you go get them? I think that that's one of the major things that I, if I had to do it over, I would do it a little, I would have a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan. And Jay-Z, one of my, not to plug, but the first 5 Jay-Z albums are mine, right? And so I look at him and I always say how amazing he's grown as an entertainer, but also a business plan. He recently did a businessman. He recently did an article that I read, and he said, I can tell you exactly what I did for 365 days last year, laser focused towards my goals. And many people can't say that. And that's the thing that, whatever that plan is, what are you working towards every single day that's going to get you the results that you are so entitled to, right? Abundance is our birthright, but then also, what your goals are. And so that's the one thing that I would change a little bit more different about my life. I would be more intent as opposed to accepting the positions or accepting, the opportunity.
Thank you. I feel like sometimes our kids really don't know what they plan on doing. So they say, yeah, I like music, but I feel like they don't always have the guidance or anybody within their circle to make those connections and say, hey, I know Miss Young, she was working at Monroe. Let me connect her to you. And again, like Armon was saying as well, sometimes they don't know how to use their connections. They don't understand how to network, which it's almost a skill, really. You have to, if you're a shy person, how do you walk into a room where you know anyone and walk up to them and say, hi, my name's Ketsia? You're not going to do that. So it's just a matter of helping train our children and putting them in the right spaces for them. So we've kind of touched some of the questions that I had sent out in our packet. So we're going to go to some of the Q&A questions from the audience. So we touched on it a little bit before, but what advice would you give to someone who feels that they are putting in the work, which we've mentioned, but it feels like the person who has more connections are advancing and being given more opportunities? What do we say to that part?
I can definitely take this one. When I think about this, I think about my days running track and how my coaches would say to look forward when you're running. As soon as you look to your left or your right, you get off step, you might be in first place and end up in second or third place. So that's kind of how I've approached my journey. And there were moments where I was very insecure, and I would have my friends who were also journalists who would be doing huge things, and I was waiting for my moment. But you really have to do your best to not compare yourself, because everyone's journey is different and it's not a competition. There is inherent competition in music. She's been talking about Jay-Z and Nas were competing against one another throughout their career, but they both were massively successful in different ways, but massively successful. And it's a similar thing in journalism. There are so many more opportunities out here than people realize. but you won't know that if you're looking at what someone else does and just wanting what they want to do. So my thing was always, am I the best version of myself? Am I the best writer? So I just focused on being the best that I could be, improving, constantly improving. And I was able to achieve some things over the years that some of my friends who I would look at and I wanted to do what they did, they haven't been able to do. And they would tell me, "Yo, it's so cool you got to write for Pitchfork. Like I would love to do that, or you got to write here. That would have been so cool." So, yeah, it's so important to not compare yourself. It can be tough. I know that I'm definitely a very prideful person, and I've had moments where I'll look at what someone does, and I'm like, I could have done that better. But it's not your time, and it's not always going to be your time, and that's something that you really have to be okay with, because when it is your time, that just means you step up to the plate and you have to hit it out the park. But it's just not always your at bat. You have to wait some time. So yeah, I would say just at any moment where you see someone achieve something and you get down on yourself, use that as fuel to get better. And just focus on that and continue putting yourself out there as well, because like I said, there are so many more opportunities than people realize, and there's also creating your own opportunity. It may not work for everyone, but the blog you start, or the podcast you start, or the show you start can end up being a multi-million-dollar thing if you put in the work and focus on your path, your lane within the race.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on of what you just said, because um, there's always going to be another opportunity somewhere. And, connections are, look, every game, there's politics everywhere, and it's who you know. And, I'm fortunate. I'm a people person, and I can pretty much go almost anywhere and find someone I know, or I know someone who knows them. And that's, especially when I was freelancing, that's how you got your jobs, because they knew you or knew of you. So and if you stay on target to your goals and your career path, those opportunities will occur, because the more you get out there, the more people get to know you. So so it is an advantage that they get, that people are being, as the question is, advancing because they're getting there are more opportunities because there are no more people. Yeah, but as you get out there, you'll know them too. So it's fair game.
And I agree, and I echo the both of my wonderful, wonderful co-panelists this evening. I just wanted to say that, keep the blinders on. So I always talk and preach about the blinders, right? Just focus on you. Everyone's story is unique. Everyone will have a different path, a different journey. Everyone will have a different part of history, right? You can't win focusing on someone else's, business or story or their opportunity. Put the focus on your life and keep those blinders on. And I do believe that those are going to be the best experiences that one can have.
Definitely. I like all that advice. I think that goes even for us, even as we're getting older in our careers, because all of you said you have where you might want to be in the next 5 years. So still having that focus on where you want to see yourself. Excuse me. So next question from the audience is, what are the various degree concentrations you would suggest for people to pursue that enhance your profile to find employment within the industry? So anyone jump in on that?
Music wise, or just to enhance your resume, but technology and marketing / communications. I think those are the big things right now. And I think that's what I would suggest. Like for instance, in the public schools, we're right now we're big on offering our tech programs, and that's kicking up pretty, that's pretty popular right now. Those would be the kind of things I would look at in terms of enhancing your resume.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I was a communication major, as we said earlier. So, and it offered a lot. Like it sounds broad, but I was offered a lot of different courses that I'm definitely using concepts from today, like oral communication, public speaking, writing about communication, knowing how to cite sources, knowing literally just how to write. visual communication, knowing how to assess visual things and knowing what people look for in that regard. I think a lot of colleges offer kind of different course work and majors and minors, so I can only speak for Cornell. I know there was a music minor there, but I think that I definitely had a great foundation in being a communication major with the focus in media studies. And I think there was my focus, and there was something else where I kind of had a business something. It's been like almost 10 years, which is crazy to say. So I don't know exactly what my whatever the word is, but like I was taking business courses too. But yeah, I would say for whatever specific colleges that you're looking for, definitely take a really good look at what courses they offer, what majors, minors, focuses, all of those things, because they will be different everywhere. But also specifically with journalism, and this is not to dissuade anyone from going to college, because we are saying it's great, go to school, but there are a lot of people who either didn't major in journalism or media or anything related to that, or didn't go to school at all, who are successful journalists too. And this goes back to the whole pivoting thing. So if you all end up completely shifting and you're an engineer or you major in math or whatever, and you end up wanting to be a journalist, it is still something that you can do, as long as you have that foundation of being a good writer, that love for music, and the work ethic to kind of learn the soft and hard skills that are associated with this career.
So my major was mass communications and my minor was secondary education. I think that, I graduated a long time ago. 10 years is nothing, sir. You are good and super young. Next year will be my 30th year of graduation from the Howard University. So it's been a long and amazing journey. But I think that over the years, for me in particular, these majors have evolved, right? So if you are late, I always tell students, you don't have to know where you're going to end up, just know where you're going to start, right? So I do, and I also believe that, to give students encouragement to finding your niche. And yes, if this is not the best major for you, it's okay to switch, and it's okay not to rush out into real life and not to rush out into the music industry until you are, totally satisfied with, what this has become, right? What this world has become. But I do believe that, many of the schools have, obviously music business degrees at this point. So if you are all the way there and you know that you're laser focused, Howard University, we have this center, but we have a School of Fine Arts, which has, a music industry degree that kind of parallels our program. We have COAS, the School of Arts and Sciences, that has a hip hop minor. Oh my gosh, right? That we're launching. And then also, again, School of Communications, where I graduated from. A lot of the students, are laser focused in entertainment and music in some way. So the mass communications works well. And then lastly, for me here, I'm in the School of Business, right? So you have many students that have degrees in marketing or business finance. I have students, one particular shining star that, his major is finance. So he wants to be a finance person at a record label. Another thing that I always teach students is that you can marry your dreams, right? So you can have, if you want to be in the music industry, but maybe you have, so when I taught at the Monroe College, a lot of the parents were Caribbean, right? And they were stush on making sure that the students stayed, you will be an accountant, right? No, you will be an IT major. But what I was able to do is share that you can focus on those careers within the music industry, right? I met with a lot of parents. So the goal is for you to, making sure that whatever it is and finding your niche, connecting with those majors so that it'll give you that much more leverage when you're applying for a job. So say, for instance, if you want to be work in the finance department of a music, of a label, yes, you can, your major can be finance, and you can, or it can be accounting, or you can definitely find out what you want to do, or, the realm of that, and apply that.
Thank you. Because I think that that's a good point that you raised, was that, yes, a lot of families see accounting as, okay, you need to go and work in the bank, but you like your music. So it's a win-win to be doing what your parents want you to do, which is be an accountant, but yet you're also in that music world where, you know, music makes the world go round for you. So I think that's what our students need to hear, that traditional careers don't have to be in a traditional environment. You can take it outside of that traditional world. Okay, so let's take another question. I like this question from the audience, which says, what suggestions do you have to give balance to the professional versus starstruck aspect? That is, being the musician you follow, enjoyed their music all your life. So yeah, you get to meet Jay-Z or whatever. How do you stay cool and not fumble your words?
Oh my gosh. Whoever asked that question is more than welcome here at our center, right? One of the classes that I teach is Don't Be a Groupie. Literally the name of the class, right? One of my students, you will love him. I'll tell you the brief version of his journey, but he was fortunate enough to, Live Nation is one of our career partners, and he was fortunate enough to intern or extern on the Beyonce Renaissance World Tour. Oh my gosh, right? And then the proceeding to that is that he got a paid internship at the Live Nation off-field offices here in DC. And one of the things that he always preaches to the other students about is how I impacted him in knowing that you have to have proper etiquette, right? You have to, if this is your job, then you can't be starstruck. So you have to make sure that you stay professional, that you have certain etiquette and respectful, so that people will ask you back, right? Because if you are a groupie, or if you ask for autographs, or I've had some women and men that have literally thrown themselves, right, at artists, right? I hope this is age appropriate, right? Respectfully to the parents that are on here, but definitely be able to, you know, so that you'll know, so that you can let your student know, right? But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you teach them in advance proper etiquette, you know, manners, training, and then also teach them what they're looking like. What are you looking for? Do you want to meet the artist because you can pay for a meet and greet and do that? Or do you want to develop a relationship of professionalism so that you can work, you know, long term in this music industry, and showing them the difference in advance? So I won't provide an opportunity for our students unless they actually attend the class, Don't Be a Groupie. And in addition to that, Don't Be a Groupie, and not to change the subject, you teach them, obviously, you know, simple etiquette. You have to teach a lot of the students, is, you know, people are shocked, but you have to teach a lot of the students personal hygiene, right? You know, what to wear, right? And respectfully and humbly. And if we are, you know, a part of a team or part of a culture, it's, you know, there's no shame in that. Some, you know, everyone wasn't raised the same way. So you have to, sometimes we call it going back to the basics. You know, you have to shower. You have to dress accordingly. You have to wear undergarments, right? If you don't have deodorant, please come ask me for it. I'm here to support you. But back to the question, you have to make sure that you represent yourself all the way up here on the professional level so that people can look at you in that way.
Yeah, I 100% agree. My job is literally to tell their stories and also to critique them. Like, journalists are critics, so sometimes we have to write negative things about these people. And so I've definitely had the great opportunity to interview, meet a bunch of artists that I am fans of, but if I let my fandom get in the way of my role as a journalist, then the story might end up being bad. The interview might end up being bad. So I have to set all of that aside and remember what I'm there for, do the job. It's natural. You know, as humans, we get excited, and that's okay. You should get excited about the things that you do, but you ultimately have a job to do. So I can't, at this point, I don't really get too starstruck. Honestly, and if I do have those feelings, I use it to my advantage. If it's someone who I am a fan of, that means I probably know them better. I know what they like, and it makes the conversation even better. So there's ways to kind of flip those feelings into something that can work to your advantage based off of what you do in those specific roles. So yeah, I would say, just you got to have a lot of conversations with yourself going into it, and remind yourself that you're there as a journalist or as a photographer or as a videographer, and not as someone who's attending a meet and greet, as Dr. Young said.
Yeah, there's and just another aspect I tell my students when they meet some celebrities, and sometimes not always just musicians in the field. So like when we play, we get contracted out by ESPN sometimes for these basketball tournaments. Some of the NBA players come to their support their their alma mater. So they see these players, and I remind them they're people, just they're people. So you treat them like people, and they're just they just happen to make more money than you. So and they have more a spotlight on them, and so and it goes a long way. So we were doing one event, and we ran into 3 celebrities, and they were able to they behaved. I reminded them, hey, listen, just they're people, just say hello, and they took pictures with our group. No one else. So just asked them nicely, and so that was that. And so and I remind them of that, and also and my famous one for me, I've met a couple musicians, and I met a big movie director once. Had a half-hour conversation with the director. We were at, honest, this is a true story. I was 20 years old, and I won't tell the whole thing, but I was we talked about other majors, but I actually, through college, I worked in a sales department at a hotel. So and so anyway, I met some famous people. So but I'm bad with celebrities. I don't know who's who. So anyway, I was talking to this movie director for a half hour, and this, that, and the other, we're just talking, and I said, so what do you do for a living? And he looked at me like, oh, I'm in the film industry. And I said, oh, okay. So like what part? Like you direct, you do this, you do that. And he's like, you have no idea who I am, do you? I said, not a clue. And and then he's like, wow, this is a real conversation, and it's been a while since I've had a real conversation. And he said that. And I can't tell you how many times I had that conversation with different people that I just don't know who they are. And they enjoy it. So, the starstruck thing, you're like, oh, you take its head back, like, oh, that's you, okay, whatever. But that's the end of it, And I tell that story to my students and just remind them they're just people. They want normalcy too. So, so that'd be my suggestion. Just remember that, and that keeps the balance. And also, the more you get involved with your career path, the more that becomes normalcy. Is seeing, if you advance more, you see more of these famous people, and then along and behold, you become known. And you may not be famous, but you're known. So anyway, so that would be, the balance there in terms of just they're just people.
Thank you for sharing that. And a lot of what you're saying is just some basic information that even some other adults need to have as well, and information they can continue on through their trajectory from student to becoming a professional in whatever their career might be. So I feel like we've covered all the questions that I had. So anything else, burning information that we haven't talked about yet that you want to share with our students as far as what they need to do as far as in high school? Doc Hollander, you're with the young ones. You even have middle schoolers. And I always say also that because band starts in my school, which is a 3rd to 5th grade school, I say if you start band early, then by the time you get to middle school, Dr. Hollander, and then you get to high school, bam, you good. You got that relationship going. So anything else you guys want to talk about that we can share with the students as far as the academic piece, or any other things that they should do to enhance or strengthen the areas that they want to go into or that they don't even realize?
Really quickly, and it may sound cliche, but students, especially junior high and high school students, need to understand this. Do not let anyone dictate your dreams. Go for what you want to do. Can't nobody live your life for you. Don't listen to any negative energy on your life and on your dreams. Stay focused. And the only thing that your parents or the world can ask of you is your best. If you do your best, there's nothing else, and you cannot fail. So I run into a lot of students that said, oh, such and such said I can't do this, or, I don't think that whatever you want to do, double up and go for it, right? And don't take any negative comments, suggestions, any support from the hater. Don't do it. Focus on what you want to do and win. Right? You'll always find somebody that understands your vision. Always find someone that will support you. You will always find someone that will help you want to help you to get to from point A to B. I've met students, especially, some of the schools that I've taught at, they would get a bachelor's degree and then go back and work at the laundromat, right? Or go back and work at retail. And that's okay if that's what your heart's desire is, right? Go for, something unfathomable. Go for something that you would never dream that you would be able to accomplish. Trust me, it's all in the stars. I have students that, millionaires, right, who I've taught. I have students that are far out to pass, me. And that's what the generations do, right? The next generation, does more. The next generation does more. That's what you have the foundation for. So, go for it with 1,000% and don't listen to any hater.
Yeah, definitely want to echo that. There will be a lot of people who will hear your dreams and try to shoot them down. And then when you reach a certain point, some of those same people may come around and be like, oh, I always knew you could do it, or just supporting you out of nowhere, commenting on your Instagram, showing love, all this stuff. I've seen it. I don't really focus on it. I ultimately really just show appreciation for it. But the reality is people do want to support. They want to feel like they're supporting someone who's winning. And, you don't start out winning at first, and that's okay. Definitely don't let that get into your head. Like I've said before, and like I'll continue to say, just focus on being the best version of you. And, people will see all the big things that you do, whether it's a verified check on Instagram or interviewing this person or going to this place, and they'll focus on everything surface level. But find gratification in knowing that you have put in the work that you've put in, you've overcame the things that you've overcome. And similar to what Professor Young said, there will be a circle of people who will support you. So just, definitely focus on the love that you receive. Dream chasing is can often feel very lonely. But it feels so good when you do get to where you want to go. And it also increases that hunger within you to find a new mountain to climb. And so definitely just maintain that desire to work hard. Be bold also. One thing I've done throughout my career is be very bold and courageous, whether it's sending a DM to a writer who I thought their work was good, or sending a DM to an editor who I want to work with, or when I go to these music industry events and I see someone I recognize in the music industry, talking to them, making sure they know me. We're in the generation now where people may not carry business cards as much, but don't be afraid to give out your Instagram, take someone's Instagram, give out your phone number if you're comfortable with that. Like, it's such an advantageous generation we're in with social media. Like, the power to connect with people is just so much more expansive. So use every avenue that you have to put yourself out there, connect with people, and also put your work out there too.
Right. And also I would say always, be prepared, and in terms of expect the unexpected. You never know when that phone call's coming, ever. I can't even count the amount of times I was not ready for something. I got a phone call, and I was literally out one night with my friends at a I'll be blunt, at a bar, and I got a phone call, and they said, "Hey, we want you to go on tour to Iceland and Scotland for the next 2 weeks." I said, I said, "Okay, great. When?" And they said, "We're leaving in 6 hours." And I said, okay, and just get up and go. Drastic, yes, but you never know when that's coming. I have, then I heard there was going to be an opening for a drumline spot at one of the NFL football teams, the Indianapolis Colts. And I knew one of my students was out there. And I called him and I said, hey, there's going to be an opening. You're going to go audition. He goes, hey, I've been busy. I haven't played in 2 weeks. I go, that's nice. Be ready. And sure enough, he got the spot. You never know when that phone call's coming. So, if anything, as I said, you always got to be on guard and be ready for whatever's coming your way, either whatever field you're in. You never know, you have to go write a story or go perform somewhere. But it's there's no slacking.
And it all ties back to what you all were saying before about putting in the work. Doc Hollander, you're working with the kids in school who want to go off to college and go on to a Howard. But as you said before, you got to practice your instrument however many hours a day. You have to do the schoolwork because you have to take SATs, ACTs. They're looking at a GPA. They're not just giving out a band scholarship if you don't have the right GPA. You need to do some work with that. So that piece of it. And then once you get into college, once you get into a Howard, there's work you got to do there. You got to maintain those grades as well, because I'm sure the job recruiters are not coming to hire people who are not doing the work. And then as Armon, as you said as well, you have to put in the work as a freelancer or working and writing articles that you may not have wanted to. So there is work that you have to do while you're chasing that dream in order to get where you want to go. So any other final thoughts we want to share with the folks? Nope, no final thoughts. All righty. So I want to thank you all tonight for joining me in this episode, like we said, of College Planning with the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals. You guys, I know you could be anywhere else after the weekend of Thanksgiving, but I really appreciate that you took this time out to talk to our students. Thanks for sharing your contact information. Hopefully someone will reach out to you who has a question about something, because that's what we're about here with NAAHP and College Cafe, is sharing information, because we want every student to become their best and reach their potential. So to our audience, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode. And again, let me thank our partners, NAAHP, Golden V, Parent Matters. We couldn't do what we do without our partners in this endeavor. So thank you to everyone. And we're looking forward to seeing you on our next episode. And just let us know what you're thinking. Follow us. We're all on Instagram and Facebook. So let us know your thoughts and what you've learned from what we've been sharing. So thank you so much to our panelists, and you all have a great night, and we will see you again next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and kudos to my fellow panelists. It was a pleasure learning and growing with you guys. Blessings on blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.